Hello, everybody, and it's the Left Leg Fight Club here. And as promised, this is the live stream, which I'm really, really pleased to be doing. This is with a very good friend of mine who I've known for around about sort of 4 or 5 years now. A lad called Sam Robson, who works at Geometron Bikes, loves, breathes, and does everything on with Geometron and lives a pretty good outdoor life. So I'm going to wait no further, and I'm going to bring in Sam. So here is Sam. Welcome to the Left Leg Fight Club. Sam, how are you doing?
Hey, Daryl. Yeah, I'm good.
How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
You,
all good.
Sound. So yeah, basically, so what I've done is obviously we've been talking in the background about obviously trying to get this sorted. I know we've been on about it for a number of months now, which has been really good, and I really appreciate you giving me your time and whatever else, because I know you're a busy man, and you know you've got a busy schedule and outdoor life and moving on with whatever you're doing with your camper van, your Geometron bikes, your surfing as your board behind you, and climbing mountains, doing 24-hour races, raising money for charity and whatever else. So I'm not going to basically waste no more time. Basically, Sam, I'd just like to basically touch a little bit on and give us a brief introduction of obviously yourself. Obviously, I know I've touched on a few things there, but if you just want to touch on a bit more, if there's anything you can elaborate on, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. I don't really know how to summarize it, to be honest, Daryl. I just like having fun on my bike and challenging myself while I'm fit and healthy, young and naive enough to set out on some pretty fun adventures. They just kind of all started trying to challenge myself on my mountain bike. None of them were really challenges I saw myself doing, but yeah, once you get a little plan in your head, or once you get a goal in your head, you start to formulate a plan, and then I found no reason why not to execute plans for fun adventures. Yeah. So just enjoy riding my bike. On all
I know you've ridden your bike quite predominantly, not just over, not just nationally, but obviously internationally as well. I know you. I remember last year you win like that pink wasn't it, the pink salmon comp or something on the when you chucked yourself in the ocean or something, and I know you obviously won that competition, I think with Jack Perry, weren't it as well? Jack Perry.
Yeah. So that was a race in Turkey, the Sky to Sea race. So it's in the same area they do a sea to sky hard enduro motorbike race. And on the same mountain, they did a sky to sea race. So we raced down one mountain, split into 3 stages. So yeah, that was a fun thing to do in Turkey.
Cool. So what actually got you into biking then? What was it that started you into your biking? I mean, obviously I know you're a young strapping lad, and you probably worked for one of the best bike companies, globally known and everything else, which I have the pleasure of owning a Geometron myself. I've had 2 of them. So what actually got you into the biking?
First got me into biking. Other than playing around in the woods with my mates, just building random pallet jumps and stuff. The main push to going and ride in different places was my old man. I owe a lot to like my parents, but definitely my old man. He wanted to quit smoking and start mountain biking again, which is what he used to do in his early 20s. So we just started traveling around. I lived in West Wales, and we just started traveling around Wales, ticking off all the trail centres. And that's how I just started, moving around with my bike and seeing, I guess, the world of mountain biking through with my old man. Finding all the different trail centers, because that was all that was around maybe like 15, 20 years ago. Trail maps found in magazines, and trail centers published online.
Cool. So let's just touch on like Geometron then. So obviously, So what? Obviously, where did it come about? You obviously working with Geometron. I mean, obviously, I know you worked alongside Chris Porter when obviously he was down at Fox and Mojo and stuff like that. But how did? I mean, I'm guessing that's where it all started from. Then you transitioned over. Is that right?
Yeah, that's more or less right. So I I was doing a university degree, and that's called sports engineering.
Right.
So it's closely linked to mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
So it was my route into, I don't know, growing up and finding a career that meant I could mess around and fiddle around with bikes full time. So as a part of my university course, it's called a sandwich course, and you do a gap year in the middle, so a year in industry in the middle of your course. So after the second year, you get a chance to go and work in industry for a year. And I approached a few different bike companies and, had a couple of interviews, but I chose to, or I was drawn into what Chris was doing and what the team at Mojo would do at the races, so, out the box kind of thinking and pushing bikes to go faster, really. That was what everybody wanted, or, that's what I still want, is to try and go as fast as I can on my bike. So I went to Mojo. I went to Mojo for a year.
Yeah.
That's where I first
met you. I remember that's where I first met you when I had my Cossack rocket, and I think you helped set up my. I had the X2, and I think that time when I first met you, that was when they had the fault with the X2 where they was blowing, where they limited the pressure on them, weren't it, from 300 PSI.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember the day you walked in.
Swapping it out. That's right. Evolve or something on my Cossack rocket.
Yeah,
and I mean, and obviously,
first encounter.
It's just great, you're just so fortunate as well to that basically where you both, obviously where Geometron HQ is now, and obviously also where the old sort of Fox / Mojo Rising HQ was back in sort of King Conway. You had some great riding on the doorstep, really, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, obviously where you are now is, I've had the pleasure of riding it with you a few times, and obviously all the other guys down at Geometron, and it's absolutely fantastic. You know what I mean? It's a good place to have a HQ, and definitely a good place to have your stomping ground, really, as your home sort of territory. You know what I mean? Definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were really lucky at Mojo, or like on my placement year. Chris actively encouraged the lunchtime lap, so we'd head out.
I've been on it many times. And I've enjoyed it.
And he'd encourage it. So spent a lot of that year going out in a lunch hour with Chris. All the way through the winter. We'd buy fresh waterproof at the start of the winter, and Chris knew the rules of riding through the winter. So at Mojo, he had an amazing drying room for kit and a washing machine too. So you could go out, you could ride to work, get covered in mud, stick your kit in the drying room, have it dry for lunchtime, go for another ride, and then ride again after work.
Not a bad way to have a lunch break, really.
Yeah, Chris knows where it's at. With employee benefits and looking after the team.
Yeah. He's definitely a very admirable man. And in my eyes, I must say, I think he's basically, if not sort of, if not nationally, maybe internationally, basically, he's definitely the suspension guru, isn't he? Really, he definitely makes a lot of changes. The only other person I can think of that springs to mind that's doing the same sort of thing as him is that guy. Is it Rulesman, the guy that Paul Aston has stuff made?
Oh the Italian chap. Yeah, working on the suspension, but the Manitou hop up kit.
Yeah. So basically, then, obviously, you've obviously been working alongside Chris now for, from what I can recall, probably 5 or 6 years, or maybe even longer than that. So what actually is your job now at Geometron? What is it you actually do there, and everything else? I personally know what you do, sort of thing, because of obviously how I know you. But do you want to just explain to people watching what your involvement is with Geometron and what you do and everything else?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's pretty involved, and it's as glamorous as riding and testing the bikes and going out and finding out information about the products we use and the products we're developing, all the way to sweeping the floor and making the tea, or phoning up the courier and chasing parcels around that we've sent out across the world. You know, it can vary as much as that. So I'm partner in Geometron and work there full time, as many hours as needed, or as few as needed. So the beat of the drum varies from day to day, from building the bikes, getting spare parts and servicing work through the workshop, as well as one-to-one customer setup. That's what I find the most interesting and the most rewarding for me as well. I've seen hundreds of riders ride past me. I throw different changes at them, whether it's in the bike or the suspension or the specifications of the components. Getting out on the trail and iterating and watching a rider really connect with the bike and the ground and see their confidence build. That's what I find the most rewarding, and I really enjoy getting out on the trails with our customers and clients. As you know, you could probably shed some light on that experience and your progress, with your bike.
Most definitely. I mean, it's meant. I mean, obviously, I know on this occasion it's meant to be sort of me asking you the questions, but I'm more than happy to answer the question what you've just sort of elaborated on, where you've you've turned it around on me, and quite honestly, I can actually say the experience of buying a Geometron. It's not just buying a bike. You're and getting a service. You're actually getting a whole package. You're getting the knowledge of people that actually ride, use, and build the bikes. You're getting their knowledge. You're getting their know. You're getting to obviously become part of that company as such. As that's what I feel, and I'm sure others will agree with me on that. It's not just like going into a bike shop or going to other sort of bike brands where you don't get that experience. It's mind blowing, really, and I think really it's just such a simple way of doing things, but just to get the best results from it, and also the rider just gets the best from the bike from what and your guidance on how to do it. And I mean, I personally myself, like I said, I'm very privileged to be sort of interviewing you, and obviously also, when I phone up, as you know, I phone you quite a bit, and you recognise my number and my voice and everything else, and so does everyone else there. But I can honestly say that it's really is an experience. It's not just buying a bike.
And from my point of view, Darryl, over the last 3 or 4 years of your riding, it's been quite a pleasure to watch your riding develop.
That's very kind of you to say. And it's been a pleasure riding with you as well.
Your relationship with your bike and your knowledge building of your requirements from your bike, your individual setup nuances and changes we make for you as like the technicality of the trails you ride has changed. You went from riding Cannock Chase, riding the trail centre there, to tackling some of the off-piste stuff down in South Wales. That's
which I hopefully want to try and get back to. You know what I mean? But hopefully I will get there in a few months. And even yet again, even when I broke my leg, and still it's not quite healed, but it's getting there. Even when phoning you guys up and asking about is there any adaptations you can make to my bike, you was already saying like, oh, this is what you do, come the bike down, there's already a plan in place for me to get on that bike, making further adaptations to suit my style of riding, and obviously allow me to ride it with obviously the state that I'm in, or the recovery to make it better, really.
And that's what we do, and that's what I enjoy doing, is turning the problem into solutions.
But the thing is, there's no other company out there that does it like you. There's no other company out there that does it. There really isn't. And I bought bikes before, and I'm not going to say name and shame brands. I'm not going to do it because it's not my place to do that. And I've had other experiences with other people where I bought bikes direct with direct sales, you know what I mean? And as soon as like, you know, as soon as I've like bought that bike, you know, they've been all happy honky dory with me. And then when I jumped on a Geometron, it's more or less like, well, fuck you, we don't want to know you. And I just thought, hang on a minute, what's that all about? You know, I mean, it's like I bought a bike off, you know, you know me. It's like, hang on a minute, I know you on first name terms, boy. What's with that attitude? And it kind of sucks really. And I just don't really dig that.
Well,
you know what I mean? But you know, but you don't ever get that with you guys. You've always got time for your customers, you know, and that is a lot. That means a lot to, I think, a lot of people that you deal with, you know, not just nationally but internationally as well. I mean, I've seen some of like the write-ups on your social medias and where your bikes go, you know, Philippines, America, Canada, you know, like you take them to Turkey, Madeira, all over the world, you know, China, there's Geometrons, you know, and to basically get them people set up on them bikes, you know, people who you might not even meet from one day to the next, and if you do, and when you dial it all in and whatever, it's just incredible, really, you know. And I take my hat off to you for how you guys run your business there, you know. And the other thing is that I think the other great thing about it is as well is even though you've got that affiliation with Nikolai, you know, and there's obviously a vast range of bikes what they do. The one thing what Geometron is you've got that one bike which is the G1, and that's been your flagship now for just over 4 years. And there's nothing that you've changed on that bike. The only change is what you make is down to how you obviously ride it or how you want it set up. And that's not just what you guys do, but that's also what the rider or the individual can do who owns one.
So everybody, you know, everybody's on their own prototype almost.
Yeah,
they get to adapt the bike to how they want to use it, and you know, it can be as simple or as complicated as you like. You know, you have the ability to change something every single ride, or you know, a lot of customers they'll have full faith in what I do to their bike, and they'll be so happy riding their bike that they'll not touch a single adjustment or think about making a change for, you know, 12, 15 months, 2 years, and then they'll bring it back in for a service and say, look,
I can honestly agree with you there.
Yeah,
I can honestly agree with that, because I know the last time that my suspension was tweaked and changed to suit my style of riding, it was when you done it on the top of the lunchtime, that one of the downs. So yeah, it's been like that since, and it's been like that for probably nearly 18 months. So
yeah, hit the sweet spot. Yeah, so yeah, back to the point of the G1 and the bike I use. You know, bring it back to what I do, not necessarily just strictly all about Geometron, but it really is a bike that I've enjoyed riding, and it's, you know, allowed me to do anything from, you know, like uplift days to, you know, I've done a 24-hour race on it. It's wicked, you know, all on the one frame. I just don't have to worry about having 3-4 different bikes in the shed to go and do a different adventure at the weekend. I mean, admittedly, it takes some level of fitness and commitment to do any of that, but the bike has withstood its, you know, gruels of downhill or enduro. It did a 6-day enduro race last summer. No problem. So Jack and I did the Stone King Rally last year. That was such good fun. That was 6 days across the Alps, and the both of us on our G1s. And I think the only trouble we had was, I think I broke a mech on one day, and I think Jack got away with very lightly. Didn't get away with any mechanicals. We got away with no mechanicals. But there's the bike that can do a bit of everything, and that's kind of what I do too. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. So I mean, obviously, I'm elaborating on the bike that does everything. The next question I'm going to ask you is this: what is the perfect setup for you with your G1?
That's a tough one, because it depends what I'm doing.
Right.
But
if you then let me elaborate on that. Even though you're saying with what you're doing, let's say what would be your one go-to setup? What would do everything?
Okay.
Because I know that you're a very, very big lover of the Mork with the triple crown. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. So that is my baby. That's the fork I built on my placement year. So that's my Fox 40 from 2017, where it went to NA2, which has got like the transfer port in the side of the stanchion. And you can manipulate the air chamber on that fork to suck it down. So I can suck it down to like 180 to 160. So that is definitely my favorite performing fork. And I put a lot of love into that one and put a few special little parts in it. And it works really well. And then with the Mork adjustable or the Mojo offset adjustable crowns, that reduces the fork offset, which was a problem on downhill forks. That was like 52 mil offset, and now I've got it on a 29-inch wheel down to 42. So that's the same as my single crown fork. So my steering geometry is good there. That fork every time I put it on, I get juiced up to go fast. So yeah, that fork has got to be my favorite. But I'm trying to think back to like my favorite setup where I've had like the best times on my bike, which is probably the setup of last summer, which is my G1 with 29 front and rear, 170 fork, 170 on the rear, and I run a stock shock. Nothing special. Standard mutator setup in the frame. And yeah, just a super gravity tire on the rear, super trail on the front, and insert tire insert.
I think if I remember right, I think this here is your bike, isn't it? This one here.
Yeah, that's it.
By Fat Creations
in Turkey. Yeah, so that's my bike. It's it's a one-off by Fat Creations, and I never thought I'd get such a special paint job. And Bex at Fat Creations worked her fingers off for that, and really brought my like vision of like an 80s 90s surfboard theme. I don't know if you've seen Town and Country. They're like a surf brand, and they do really cool surfboard designs. So it's kind of inspired by them. A combination of my favorite colors, and I just hadn't seen it before on a bike. And fair play to that bike; it's put up with a lot. It is a year old, and we have these bikes to stand on them and ride them into things. And I've got somebody's one-off hand paintwork on it. But I love it. Every time I look at it, it makes me smile. And
it definitely is very special. It definitely
did a great job.
There definitely is a very special
one. I wanted to get the G1 painted just because it's the first. It's the bike I've not broken one. I've not broken a G1. So I knew if I got it painted a special color, it's not going anywhere.
It definitely is a good.
And it was a cool G1's the first kind of project that I had, or I jumped into with the Geometron team. Like my colleague Marcel, very talented designer, he was designing the G1 when I joined the team 5 years ago in May. So they began the G1 project, designing the new adjustability system, the mutators, the new suspension layout for the bespoke G1 Storia from EXT. So the G1 was the first project that I kind of jumped into as a post grad. So that frame will always have something, or will always mean something to me. So I hope one day to have it hung up in my garage, in my man cave, along with a cool surfboard too. Not that I'm much of a surfer.
I remember when they sort of announced the G1, and because I remember when I first sort of second met you up at Tweedlove, and I remember doing the demo up there, and I had a G16, and I went on it, and I remember you was with Chris that day, and I come back and Chris said that it was the biggest smile he's seen on anyone's faces over the whole weekend, because it was the first time that I basically went on a Geometron. And he said to me, I remember Chris saying, said, "Oh, so how come you decided to buy a Geometron then?" And my exact words back to him was, because, well, I've just divorced my ex-wife, and for the past 3 years she wouldn't let me buy one. So I bought the G16, and then obviously they made the announcement of obviously the G1, I think in the December, I think it was 2017 if I remember right.
Maybe 2019.
Was it?
Or 2018?
2018, sorry, yeah, 2018 it was, yeah, 2018, yeah, that's right, yeah, 2018. They announced it in the December, and I remember I phoned up and I said, "Well, I want one of these bikes." And Marcel and yourself were saying, "No, you don't need one." You thought, it's fine. And I remember I was the second person to have the XL G1 frame, and you built it up on April the 4th. I remember April the 4th, 2019. I remember the day, and I've still got the receipt somewhere around in this room in the folder.
Oh, mega! Yeah.
So yeah, I remember you built it up, like. So yeah.
No, yeah, I love building the bikes up too. As many as I've done, I could probably do it with my eyes shut. But I really enjoy putting them together because I look at it like it's going to be my bike, or for somebody else, that's going to be the bike that's going to bring them the most smiles and give them the most feel good factor that I get from riding my bike. So I put a lot of love into building everyone's bikes, because it's not just a bike that's off the shelf. Like you can rough a build out and cut the steerer and get everything bolted together, but before it leaves us, everything's gone through and tailored to the rider, and it's like it's a nicely shaped piece of equipment for a rider to take away and have loads of good times on it.
Yeah, they definitely are. And I mean, the other thing is as well, which I think really with you guys down at Geometron, it definitely did set a benchmark and pioneered this sort of like modern day geometry, really. You know what I mean? To where it is now with a lot of bike companies. I mean, you look at I remember reading on a Facebook post the other day on the Nikolai page, where someone had put a picture of a Specialized alongside a geometry, and they were saying, "Oh, how long it took them to do it?" You know what I mean? And and stuff. You know what I mean? And I think really that's what's done it.
Yeah. Well, I guess for Geometron or Chris doing his experiments, working with Marcel early in those early days, the size and shape of the bike, was derived from performance and handling, and I don't know in what fashion every other bike brand has wanted to get to a similar size and shape, but maybe they've probably found that they've got some good handling characteristics and improved their performance of their bikes, which is good to see. Chris was humble enough in the beginning to say, "Look, this is what I found, this is what I like, and we've got a bike that works really well." And other bike brands didn't necessarily follow suit straight away, but maybe they had the same discoveries over the last few years.
They've definitely made adaptations over the years, I mean, obviously, like I said earlier, just touched on Specialized, with the Facebook post, but, there's definitely other brands out there that, now that do have like slacker head angles, steeper seat angles, lower bottom brackets, mullet.
That's
29.
That's what I mean about.
So
that's what I mean about performance, really. Maybe some companies have realized that their users are using their bikes differently now, and the Geometron in its first early days was a product of the riding Chris and the boys in the valleys were doing, winching up and plummeting down something as hard as you can ride back down. And you couldn't access that on your downhill bikes back in the days, and they were the bikes that you could go fast on. back then. Enduro bikes weren't really that suited to it. Everybody remembers, breaking frames or eating through frame bearings, or, struggling to climb on really slack seat angles, or getting tipped over the bars in a steep switchback or something. So for Geometron, it started because the mountain bikes weren't suitable for the riding, we were doing. And it still is, it's much the same now. The G1 is a product of, everything that we ride and how we use our bikes.
It definitely ticks the box for me, that bike. I'm not even going to lie. I've had a gravel bike, which I thought was absolutely dreadful. I've had hardtail, and I've had another full sus. And the one thing is, alongside the Geometron, and the thing is the one thing that always puts a smile on my face, and the one bike that I can literally ride and get back on and just enjoy riding, is always the G1. It's the one bike that ticks every single box, and I can honestly say it's the one bike does it all. I think, in my opinion. And I mean, I know that obviously other people, might have different views and opinions which they're entitled to about their bikes, and if they're doing that on their bikes, then fair play. You know what I mean? And it certainly does. Yeah. It does make a difference. It does make a difference, especially just not from jumping on one bike to another, just keep having to adapt. But then also you just get used to that one bike, and you just like you say, going back to the performance, you basically get to perform better on that bike and progress, like you were saying, what you were saying earlier about obviously the progression you see with myself, and obviously I'm sure that you see that with other clients and customers and people that are with that have bought Geometrons. You know what I
mean? Yeah, for sure. Yes, it is really nice to see. And sometimes it's disappointing. I'll have a customer who will be very involved with the setup and getting their bike built, and we'll go through every single detail of their build, and I'll have a prescribed setup from the test ride and all the base settings from that, which could either be from a ride that takes a couple of hours, or we'll be out in the woods all day trying to get them comfortable, taking on different sections of trail to make sure everything's working the way they want. And then they'll get their bike and I won't hear anything from them, and for a year, and until it comes to service time, and they'll phone up and they'll be like, oh, I've had such good times on here, I've been on 6 different riding trips and I've had my best race results, and they bring it in for a service. So yeah, it is nice to hear from the customers and still be involved in their riding.
It's bomb-proof. It really is. It's just a bomb-proof bike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, going back to what you were saying about about obviously people phoning up a year later and saying I want this, want that, but I will make up for all them people that only phone up once a year. I'll just
yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, it's incredible. It's a wicked bike. So yeah, I mean, I think really we've pretty much touched on everything about Geometron. I mean, so what are your sort of plans moving forward? Is there anything in the pipeline for Geometron moving forward which you'd like to share with us, or is it a bit hush-hush about what's going on or not? Or is there any sort of future plans to change the G1 or make any adaptations to it, or anything else which Geometron / Mojo we're going to be doing, or what really?
Yeah, so it's hard to pin down anything just yet. I try and be as open and as transparent as possible, but it's so like we've got a few projects on the go, and we're always interested in playing around with new things, and if a combination of changes do necessitate a change in model, then we do that, but at the moment not really. So in our opinion, we've sat down a number of times to look at the G1 and assess it, but genuinely I can't draw enough, I can't write enough of a list of improvements to make to the G1 to even need to make some changes. So like I'd say in the next 12 months, there's a few little projects going on into the G1, just for little refinements that'll all be like retrofittable, just to bring together like a new combination of parts. So everybody's asked us about UDH compatibility. So that's a project coming along, but nothing just yet.
Is that the new SRAM?
Yeah. So yeah, it's the rear mech hanger, so a universal mech hanger, which they released years ago. But Nikolai and us, we've been happy with using the Rado system, which is an alignment that Nikolai used to make sure the frames are 100% in line. But it is possible to integrate that. And well, now that the T-type SRAM rear derailleur has come along, that some users want to have that compatibility. So there's solutions coming for that, as well as just a nice few little finishing kits to.
But do you not think, though, basically based on that UHD thing, that basically if there's going to be some bikes that only have that UHD, that's just going to be like a thing. I was having this conversation with someone the other week that basically if that frame is only UHD compatible, then they're only going to be able to obviously access SRAM stuff. Sorry, and not Shimano.
No, so that's not true. The UDH is a universal derailleur hanger, which bike brands have been using for years.
Right.
And that
Sorry,
has
I beg your pardon. I obviously got it wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the new T-type SRAM drivetrain fits into the same standards as a universal derailleur hanger rear end would have.
Yeah. I've got a question coming from someone, if you don't mind answering that. I know time's getting on from our friend.
I forgot there was people watching.
Well, there's a few watching. So we've got Lucas. Lucas, our friend with the G1 from Malvern. No, not Malvern. Yeah. Is it Malvern? No, Worcester. Sorry. So he put. Can you tell us about the gearbox project?
Yes, definitely can. Well, yeah, that's been a cool project of mine. So of ours, but I definitely was the most interested to begin with, and Marcel was happy to take on a lot of the ideas I had and sort of things we wanted to incorporate. So yeah, we've had that about a year now, and it was purely just to understand the differences in ride characteristics when we've had a frame for 4 years, the G1 frame with a standard drivetrain, and there is going to be a shift towards in the near future. So it was purely just my appetite or like a Geometron's appetite to understand what moving the drive into the middle of the frame, reducing the unsprung mass, reducing the weight off the rear wheel and having a consistent chain line. So that's what we began that project bike with. And then we wanted to try a couple of different suspension layouts, different suspension platforms, just to see what it feels like and what we wanted to do next with suspension feel and ride characteristics. So the bike that we've got in the workshop has the pinion drivetrain in it, and we're testing a couple of gearboxes in it. I've really been enjoying riding it. I found very, very few drawbacks other than the one sticking point, which the drive does feel different when you're driving the gearbox through your feet. You're not connected to the rear wheel with just a straight chain line. You're turning shafts in the gearbox, so it does feel different to pedal. And that's the only drawback I've got. Coming back to the pros of it is the lack of feedback through my feet has been really delicious. Like descending on the bike has been so much fun. So much so I've had to change what feedback I'm getting through the bike and understand what I ride flat pedals and I like to feel the bike, and I'm pretty sensitive to acute changes to the bike. So loading and pushing the bike through my feet and loading the rear tire and feeling the grip
Well, that was going to be my next question. How is it compared to obviously because you've got like that, you've got that weight over sort of essentially what is the middle of the bike, whereas before you've got a bit more weight over the back. You've moved the weight forward, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've moved kind of quite a bit further forward, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's nearly like 1.5 kilograms different. I was running AXS mech on the back of my bike with a 10, well, was it the 52 Mech X1 cassette on the back. So that's a fair bit of weight, and it's definitely a performance advantage descending. I did a few runs. I did a day at Dovey the other day, back to back in it with my G1, and just purely descending, I felt like I could push my little envelope of comfort and pace just a little bit further on that bike, which I thought was a great advantage. But the handling and the ride characteristics did give me extra comfort. And my G1 by no means is uncomfortable or unconfidence inspiring. I've ridden that bike pretty fast over the last year or last 4 years. But yeah, that just felt more comfortable going fast on the gearbox.
Because obviously the ratios are different as well with the gears, aren't they? As well, you know what I mean, from the gearbox to a cassette, isn't it? Or is that not right?
No, so it's the pinion gearboxes we've got a 9-speed and a 12-speed, both 500% range. So that's pretty much the same as what we've been riding around with our conventional drivetrains for a few years.
Well, obviously
now.
You know more than me. That's why I asked the question. I've got another question in from a guy called Steve Robson. I don't know if that's your brother.
That's my old man.
Okay, Dad. So he's basically put. So hello, Mr. Robson. He's basically put. So what adventure is next on the horizon for you?
Ooh, good question. I should probably go and see him.
Okay, cool.
No, so this year there's a couple I've got need to get my head down for. I've just this last couple of weeks in the back of my mind fancy doing the Meg Avalanche. It's a race I've wanted to do for a few years.
Fancy,
so yeah. So that's a mass start race at the top of a mountain. So hopefully that's going to be an adventure this summer. God, yeah, I've got a few.
Is that like the cheese rolling, a mountain biking or something like?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if you speak to someone like who knows a little bit about mountain biking, or they've watched a bit of YouTube, they've watched some mountain bike videos on YouTube, they'd have probably seen like a mass start race off a piste. And that's the Meg Avalanche. So while I'm young and stupid enough to set out and go as fast as I can, I fancy doing that one before I get scared or any more responsibilities.
Cool, that's good then. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on, or anything else you'd like to say? Really?
Well, not really. I do struggle talking about myself. Yeah,
I mean, I don't. I mean, obviously, I like to do things a little bit loose and have a little bit of jollity and laugh. As you might have seen on my previous feeds, and like I say, I do really appreciate you coming on and giving me some of your time. So I know you're a busy man, and obviously you got, you're a young, busy man, and you like to go out and ride your bike and go surfing and go outdoors and go to the odd rave here or there and whatever else. I mean, thanks for that, Sam. I mean, what I will say is, I would like to say, there is one thing what we would like to give the presenter. I'm the presenter. What am I on about? Not give the presence of the guests, I should say. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's a bit all auditioned, not auditioned, as you can say. But so, but yeah, I will get there with practice on. I'd like to have you back on the channel further down the line if that's something you'd like to do, Sam. If you would do that again at some point.
Yeah, definitely. If there's anything anybody wants to hear about, whether it's about me or Geometron, then yeah, definitely can have a more objective chat with subjects to touch on. Definitely.
Yeah.
PR and marketing isn't really my thing. I don't really shout about myself, and particularly Geometron doesn't shout as loud as it could about everything, every good bit of good we do for mountain biking or our customers. So yeah, if there's anything anybody wants to hear, just ask. More than happy to share any information.
So right, on the back of sharing information, this is what we're going to share. So obviously, Sam, do you want to go in this and tell us what this is? So tell us what Robson 30 is.
Well, yeah, that is a discount code for the Gyro UK website. The guys at Gyro and the guys at Gyro UK are helping me out this year with some kit, because I do wear it out quite quickly, and some quality kit is much appreciated. So they approached me with their new Renew range, which is mostly based on recycled material, like predominantly recycled material in those products. And I really like the fact that they're trying to do their bit. So they're helping me out with some kit this year. And if anybody listening does like the look of any of the Gyro kit, especially the Renew stuff, they can get 30% off when they check out with that code.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little something that, you know, if anybody I speak to or bump into likes any of the kit I use, then I can give them that code.
That's cool. Well, I'll leave a link obviously for their website in the description, obviously, once we finish. But yeah, so I think really, I think we've touched base on everything really, Sam, what I think we wanted to talk about. So what I will say is obviously thank you for your time this evening. I really appreciate that, and obviously chatting to me and obviously the audience today. So yeah, we'll I'm sure I'll speak to you before the end of the week. As normal, I'll give you a call and whatever else. So yet again, thanks, Sam.
Cool.
That's really kind of you coming on. I really appreciate that. And yet again, thanks. And obviously, you know, I look forward to getting back out onto the trails with you soon. So, Sam, yet again, peace and love.
Nice to see you there, Daryl.
Thank you very much. Cheers, my friend.
Nice one. Bye, mate.
Bye for now. Bye-bye. 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 So, yeah, as you can see, great talking to Sam about Geometron Bikes. Really was absolutely fantastic for him to share what he's going through, what's coming up with Geometron Bikes. And so, yeah, what I would say is, as I always say, thanks, Sam, and keep an eye out for what's coming up soon. On the next live feed, I will be interviewing a guy called Ian Taylor, who works for Pro Ride. He does mountain bike coaching. I've been coached by him. Really good guy. He's also based down in Fod. I'll put a link up for that, which will be on next Monday. So as I always say, this is the Left Leg Bike Club, over and out. Peace and love, and ta-ta for now.